Hello, friends. Yes, it's me trying to do a Joe Rogan podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to the LB6 Show. We're glad you're here. We got a really exciting podcast for you today. I'm not going to do a lot of talking up front because it's a long one, relatively speaking. We got the elusive but wonderful and nicest guy ever. We got Zach Zmed joining the show today, and I'm really happy about that because he's sort of, like I said, if you haven't heard in these Making the Scene shows, he's kind of the gateway drug or keyman clause, and that's the same with a lot of these people that they got a chance to go and meet everybody through, like the Janks and groups that he was involved with. But he's a very good friend of mine. I've been happy to be working with him on several of his projects, and we recorded Delo Stream at his house in Tennessee, and we're really happy that it's just a wonderful. Him and Zach and Dylan are just wonderful people. Can't say enough good things about these people. So, but yeah. Anyway, this is one of the few podcasts where I can just sort of it just sort of meanders. Zach is a dude where I can talk with. There's a handful of people, and these are people I just enjoy their time and their conversations so much that they just go. I could talk for hours with some of these people. Really happy that Zach could be a part of this and help me out with kind of putting this all together. He initially. So if you don't know, he's part of this. He in 2015 he and Dylan started the Everly Brothers Experience with the Bird Dogs, which features a lot of people in this PLaNETS universe, including Adam Cotton and Bert Velke and Brandon Stroop, a lot of guys we've talked to already, or will talk to, because I know Bert Velke is on the queue. Pretty soon we're getting to the point we're gonna figure out where this is all, how to wrap this all up, because we're gonna be moving on, not necessarily from PLaNETS. I think this has been a fantastic journey for me to talk to everybody and meet everybody. These are people I'd love to collaborate in the future with. So, but anyway, we do want to sort of finalize my thoughts on these things in the future. That should be coming up sometime in the summer. We're going to work something out with the crew and figure out some things. But please check out the Everly Brothers Experience with Dylan, Zach, Burley Drummond, and what they're doing to preserve the Everly Brothers music and kind of highlight a point in American music that's really important in the scope of things. All right, yeah. I've talked. Let's get to the show. Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steven.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm feeling good today.
That's good.
We've got some really. It's been beautiful the last 4 or 5 days. It's really sunny and nice after the ice storms we had a couple weeks ago in Tennessee, and you can feel springs in the air. It's really nice. How's it going with you there?
It's been wonderful. We had some nice spring days as well. Today's raining, which is nice. It's like those nice. We're getting like an early April shower thing going on. But
I loved the rain in California.
Yeah,
you kind of longed for those days a lot of the time.
Yeah, the mountains are getting green again, and then they'll get brown for the summer. But it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, there's like 2 weeks where the hills in Calabasas and Agora and Thousand Oaks looks like Ireland, and then then that's gone immediately.
Yeah,
but it's still beautiful. I love it.
No, I learned to really enjoy it myself. But yeah, I've been getting back on the hills lately, hiking again and all that stuff.
Cool. No, that's great. How's it been going with all the interviews?
They've been awesome. You have some pretty awesome people, and it's been really all the people have been super nice, and they've been super open.
So they weren't highly suspect of you because I know you?
Well,
a little bit of trepidation.
I would figure sometimes
guy.
Yeah. Well, half the people said this is all your fault anyway. Oh, I met the Janks, and then I met someone else, and I met through the Janks. So most of them were, it was, I could say the same thing about you, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, we have a rare morning pod, so you might find me in a more haze of waking up, which is fine.
That's fine. You're having coffee. I'm having
coffee. I'm having coffee out of the Studio B mug that I bought at the CMA at the Country Music last time I was out there. Yeah.
Nice. What is mine? Mine's just really nice, like pottery. I like this mug.
I think because you and I would known each other our longest of all these people, it's gonna get the most casual of conversations, but that's okay.
Yeah, this is gonna be boring to everyone.
How's your mom?
Oh, she's great. She just retired for the second time.
Oh, good. Good.
And she's coming out to Tennessee in the next few weeks.
Oh, wonderful.
To look at homes, so that's cool. She's good, man. I miss her. I haven't seen her since February of 2020. This is the longest.
That's the last time I saw her too.
My mom.
Yeah, that was the last time I saw her too.
You probably saw my mom No. The last time that you saw my mom was at the Valentine's Day Otmar Liebert show.
It was, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Yeah. No one's going to understand what we're talking about. So
no, I usually keep my I don't usually tell people who I work for. Yeah. So I still haven't technically, but anyway, the Germans. So. But
anyway, I want to talk about this is about planets. Enough of this.
Yeah. So so this is a funny way this story came up. This whole project is. I mean, I kind of bounced this off you in like November about doing this, and partially inspired that was when we were all at your house in late September, October, and you were talking to Ted about Adam Stowell and Adam Cotton and the PLaNETS scene. I don't think Ted was as familiar with that group, and so you were kind of explaining it, and I go, those guys were awesome.
Wait, so you knew about it? I
knew about it because I after the Whitefire gig that we did in 2016, you said, hey, we're doing the show, or maybe Dylan did, but we're doing this show with some friends of ours at Casey's Irish Pub downtown.
Oh, was that the Christmas show?
It was Father Time's Christmas special.
Oh my gosh,
and
that was like, so fun.
Yeah. And that was and I don't know if you've been following the pod, but essentially that's the kind of, oh my God, who the hell are these people? This is awesome. This is what I've been wanting to be a part of.
I think a lot of people had that reaction, you know, because it was just so inviting and weird and dark, but funny and light and sweet. It was just everything. And I got that same feeling when I first saw them. I just thought, how could I get in on this? I love these people. Yeah. So but it's hard to explain to someone that hasn't seen what the show's like, because clearly their backgrounds are, it was just such an interesting setup. So what was your experience? How did you feel seeing the act for the first time? And I'm guessing you saw something that was very specific show. You didn't see Dark Woods or Dark City.
No, I was not familiar with any of the actual PLaNETS shows or sets. My reaction was I was very tired. That was a very trying year for a lot of reasons. Most of all, I think it really kicked off with my childhood friend like getting hit by a car and killed.
What? I didn't know about that.
I don't want to exploit that too much, but like my childhood friend was like gone in an instant, and then
I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I didn't know about that. I
mean, and add that to the celebrity harvest, of that year. But that celebrity harvest, I usually like. It's not as like it varies based on the people. Like, I didn't care that Glenn Frey died, but I cared that Keith Emerson did. One of those things. But anyway, the point was, and then the Cubs won the World Series. That was a bummer.
That was like that was the first time I've seen my dad, genuinely happy since I don't know, since the Bears won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
in '85.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was rough for me. I had a tough time, tough week, and then Trump,
it's funny when
Trump won the election
some
next.
I think it's funny when some people's joy is other people's sorrow. That's funny, something funny in that. But I get it. There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Yeah, and then Trump won the election, and everybody was like, most Americans, not all of them, but a lot of like maybe at least plus 3 million people were bummed out. Anyway, the point being is, and then the show happened, like, and I think that, and then there was that fire. I don't know if you remember this. There was like a fire in Oakland.
You mean the warehouse party?
Yeah.
I remember that.
That one hit me particularly hard because I felt that was like something that'd be kind of cool to go to. It was a kind of cool, like, sort of a pure little art scene that people were having a good time in, and like the code was awful, and everybody,
Yeah, I remember that.
So that happened like within the week of seeing that show, we did the White Fire gig, and I don't know when. I think it was the week after that was the show. I can't really remember when we did those gigs on the day of. But anyway, that was the first time I met Bert, and the first time I met Brandon, and then I saw them at the show. I'm like, oh, cool! This is all a circle. This is a giant pool of people. That's really good friends, and then Father Time shows up, and then I'm like, oh, this is interesting. and then just everybody started playing songs on like an egoless level. Of I don't just kind of having fun, and it was something I was not used to. So it was really cool. And I kind of, by the end of it, I was sort of like had like a single tear of joy and catharsis, and it was like, wow, this is really, really cool.
I'm trying to remember what happened at that show. Was that the one that where we did?
It was not
where
the one
where Nathaniel and Nick did "Hot for Teacher." Is that one?
No, I don't think so. It was the one Nate did.
That was
he might
fantastic.
have. I have to check the footage, but I know.
So have you seen videos of the actual show, Dark Woods and Dark City? I've
done my research at this point.
Yeah,
and part of it, and that's also the other element, was that they were doing a Halloween. After I got back home from Tennessee, they did the guys did a live stream of the Halloween Dark City, and I think some Dark Wood stuff. So like they were live streaming, like they were rebroadcasting it on YouTube, and everybody was on the chat like they were at Couch LA, like they were like in the midsummer, and going like, "This is so great! I miss these times." It's like, oh, this still resonates with people, and the people are still like chatting and having a good time on a YouTube chat, which also says a lot. And so I was like, I need to tap into how this worked. Essentially, I would like to see how this is all.
Well, it's hard, as anyone that's tried to project organize or put together a band knows how difficult it actually can be. Even just to play solo, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
You're battling with yourself, and then you've got, I've typically only played in groups that are, about 5 people tops, and I first saw the PLaNETS show, the Dark Woods show, at Casey's. I think it was October of 2011. And the Janks just had a residency at Casey's in September, and I was going there the following Saturday to go pick up my check from this guy Dave, who actually ended up managing PLaNETS briefly, and managing in quotes, I'd say.
Yeah, sure. I got you.
But it was sometimes it was hard to get paid for that gig, so you'd have to go to the venue and find him to get paid,
Yeah.
So I did. He was a great guy. He was always really nice to me. He said, "Hey, you gotta stay. You gotta see these weirdo art people from Montana." And I said, "Well, that sounds great." And meanwhile, there are people crawling around on the ground, and I thought that they were just at the bar. I didn't, like, okay, because who knows if you're in LA, it's a weird place.
Right.
So there were people crawling around on the ground, and, they had the long fingers and stuff. And I didn't know that it was the dancers in the show that were like, it was almost like they were trying to get people interested to go to the back. They were trying to lure people into the back. So I walked into the back. There's the band on stage. Adam playing guitar, Cotton playing guitar, Stilly singing, Dino on drums. Meanwhile, you've got dancers, with choreography. You've got paper throwers. You've got, you also have the shadow puppetry. Mm-hmm. I remember that happening. And I was so intrigued, but I guess the big moment was when, unbeknownst to me, it was Nathaniel, but the robot came out.
Right.
And when the robot came out, I love the costume. I thought it was a great costume, just the big eyes that light up and everything. It was great. And when there's that initial reveal through the shadow, and of the robot, and then the robot eventually joins the audience on the ground and is dancing around with the audience. And the only thing I could liken it to, in terms of how it made me feel, was I remember I went to Universal City Walk when I was like 6 years old to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live. And they had like Bebop and Rocksteady and the Shredder and all the characters were there. I can't remember if April was there, but I just that kind of excitement. It made me feel like a kid again, where it was just so, it was so silly and fun and dark, and it just made me feel good. And the funniest thing to me was seeing all this whole cast of. There's like 50 people involved. Meanwhile, they don't have a bass player. It's like, how is it that you got all these people together and you couldn't get one of these people that are dancing beautifully to pick up the bass? So yeah. That's where my window of opportunity presented itself, and I said I would love to play bass. And I remember Dave introduced me to Cotton and Natasha, and then I said I would like to play bass with you guys. And I can't believe that they actually, fell for it and invited me over.
It was the one group where they said anybody who wanted to do anything, you had a home there, which is kind of, you got. I think there's a lucky. Your gall met their openness pretty well.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It didn't make any sense to me, as you guys are so cool. You guys could have anyone playing bass with you. Why would you have me? They didn't know who I was. I was just some guy in a hat.
I'm pretty sure you also had you probably looked good enough to be in that like group of people. You're probably just too fine.
Well, they had to put paint on my face.
Yeah, yeah. There's that, I guess, but
to try and hide it.
I'm sure like that guy, he's got nice hair.
It's thinning. Yeah, my hair is thinning.
He had nice hair.
Yeah. I think I was wearing a hat that night. I was wearing a fedora.
That dude's got a fedora. He looks pretty cool.
No, it's true. There is something.
Did you have a neck beard too?
A neck beard?
Yeah, neck beard and fedora.
No,
okay.
No. But
that probably worked for you then.
Again, I think that the fact that they were so inviting made me want to just it made me want to be a better. It made me want to show up. Like the fact that they were so kind to me and invited me to one of their many Alhambra House parties. Whether it was Matthew McConaughey Fest or the Ric Flair Fest. or the Nick Cage Fest. I don't know, whatever it was. I felt so grateful, and I still feel grateful to the whole crew. They are some of the best people. I love them. Yeah, I can't believe that all happened, because it's such a rare thing to get so many people involved and want to be a part of something and work towards this one thing. And I mean, hats off to all the people that were really working behind the scenes, the ones that really spearheaded the shows, and the to and from, driving to and from the shows, to getting everyone safely back and forth. Because I was kind of like I could come and go kind of freely, because I had other stuff going on. I was just trying to help out in any way that I could and be a part of it in any way I could. But I was not a huge creative driving force of that whole thing. That's the brainchild of much greater men and women than I.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of the element of the that I've been trying to figure out is the amount of, because I'm starting to realize that there's these guys were mostly film and theater people putting this on, right? And so it kind of it feels like that's the kind of mentality you would have to put that kind of production on, which is you need a group of people to do it. You can't. It's not. Music can be very insular and in close knit group. Working together. Kind of the chemistry can be 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, but it can also be bigger too if you have the right central figure, obviously.
I saw it as one big theater piece, and it made me feel like I was kind of on the road with my dad again. All being a part of a cast and hanging out with a cast on the road is so much fun. I mean, it's crazy, and there's plenty of drama, but it's so fun having a whole bunch of people working towards one common goal. And I think it did remind me of childhood a little bit, that like missing being on the road with my dad. And I never really made that connection, but that's probably why I felt so comfortable in the whole setup as well, because I was raised, I was on the road with thespians and entertainers, and and that they're incredible at that. And there's a huge difference between musicians and entertainers, and there are some of the greatest musicians out there are the most boring people to watch, and then there are entertainers that aren't necessarily the greatest musicians, but it's something to witness. And then there are the people that are a composite, of all these things. And that's when you have the consummate performer, someone who's a brilliant musician and a brilliant entertainer. They knew how to entertain. They got that. Yeah. And a lot of people in LA, in the LA music scene, did not. They really did not get it. They're like, oh, okay, I can just write a few songs and get up there and close my eyes and sing, and everyone's gonna be on board. But they were truly providing something, a spectacle for people to witness. And even the people that maybe it wasn't their thing, you can't deny that it was it was a spectacle. You can't take your eyes off it. No. You okay?
Yeah, just coffee, acid.
Acid? You're on acid?
I finally made the leap, man. Finally, To your point with the LA music scene, so I can knock it. I remember going to, I think I'd joined John and Ted to like songwriter nights and stuff that their friend Joel was putting on, and I'd run into, it was like things like the hotel cafe, the separate room, the smaller room or whatever, and they had, I just remember like the networking vibe around that was very networky. It wasn't very, it was you could feel the agenda breathing on you. Sure, yeah. Like I'm so and so, I'm a singer songwriter, I'm doing this, and And I'm like, okay, well then, I wouldn't really be the one talking. It'd be like Ted, and like, oh yeah, so what you doing? And it's like, well, I'm doing this, and it's like I want to be writing pop songs for pop art, like modern pop artists, and it felt kind of, there was a sort of stale nature about that, the way they were talking, and I felt that was like the epitome of an LA scene, music wise, on like a superficial surface level. Like, I just got to town, I'm waiting tables, and I got to get into
sure
I
think it's important not to, I don't want to paint all of the LA music scene or film scene with too broad a brush, because it's very easy to generalize and say, and I think that there's clearly there's so much truth to that. I think that there's a famine mentality in Los Angeles where because there are limited amounts of gigs or seemingly limited amounts of gigs, so and it's really hard to find good paying gigs as an artist there or as an artisan. And so I feel like the second that you get something, you get a gig, people tend to want to hoard it rather than share it.
Yes.
Because they're like, oh my gosh, it's the famine mentality. I'm never going to get another gig. Like, oh my goodness.
Right.
I need to protect this. Yeah. But the sad thing about that is that when we share with other people, we beget more success, and we create a community of people that help each other. Hey, I can't do this gig. Can you do this gig for me? Like that kind of stuff is so much more fun. And it's not to say that doesn't happen in LA, because clearly it does. We were lucky enough to find a community of people like the PLaNETS crew, the LA River Bend crew, like all those people are just, we all enjoyed each other's company, and we're trying to help each other out. And you want to play on this gig? Hey, I've got this gig. You want to open for this one? Or it was really positive. And there are a lot of people like that in Los Angeles, but it wasn't the easiest thing to find. I've noticed already, just being in Tennessee, that my experience so far has been more so people realizing that we share in each other's success when we share opportunities with each other.
Right.
And I don't know what it is exactly. But it's not the famine mentality.
It's the abundance mentality.
It's the idea that this fountain replenishes itself if we share with each. So I like that, and I like the fact that everyone in that crew was of that mindset. Mm-hmm. They just shared. They shared everything. In the few months I've been doing this, it's amazing how much they've want to know more about me, which is weird for me, and they want to listen to like stuff I've been working on or worked on in the past. I'm like, okay, all right, sure, and then they listen to it. Sometimes you give people, check out, I've given people early copies of Beefing Around the World coming out June 4th. It's your podcast. You can say whatever you want.
I usually plug in the beginning of the show.
Just and cut to a commercial right now.
It's a tentative title. We'll be back. But not only do they check it out, they actually listen to it. That's a strange thing even for me. People will recommend stuff to me. I don't always listen to it, just because it's like I have to be in a mentality to go be open to sharing or to be. I mean, to a degree, if it was something did personally, I'd be checking it out right away. But obviously, if it's like, oh, check out this band on Spotify, I'd be like, okay, and then like forget about it. But in fact, these people, like, they go, wow, I'm listening to it right now. I'm like, oh wow, that's great. And I didn't think I would not, I don't expect people to do that. So that's kind of I've been thinking of, I've been watching a lot of and doing a deep dive, not only in this group, but Jim Henson and Associates and the Jim Henson Company. Mm-hmm. and all the Muppets and the way Jim would run his company and in a very kind of abundance mentality kind of thing. And it's like right on the screen too. You watch the Muppet movie, it's like, I got a dream too, but it's about singing and dancing and making people happy. And I find out that gets better with the more people you share it with. And I've found a lot of friends that have had that same dream, and it makes us a family. I'm like, Yeah, that's it. So, so it really kind of, this last a few episodes ago, I talked with Kim Zebe, and she said, and she literally referenced the Muppets, and it was the best, one of the highlights of the show, where we said,
yeah,
and
I get that. I can see that comparison. I
want to apologize when you listen to that.
I haven't looked into the. You'll have to send me some of the if there's a really good documentary on Jim Henson or something like that you've been watching, or something. I don't know where you've gotten your information. Behind the scenes.
I've read a couple books, and I've read a book, or actually an audio book, and then there's this YouTube series called Defunct Land, which is basically about, they mostly focus on like Disney rides that have kind of gone extinct, or different Disney projects, both international and domestic, that have like either no longer exist, or but they did the thing, they kind of shifted gears to do like a 4 or 5 part Jim Henson series.
Cool. From
like Sam and Friends to Sesame Street to Muppet Show to Fraggle Rock to
you know what I just saw for the first time at Christmas was Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yeah.
It's really, I love that Brothers song. I'd like to learn that with Dylan, John, and Ted.
That'd be great.
The Brothers.
That'd be fantastic.
Great. Yeah, so I see that comparison, and they had that.
Yeah,
they really did have whatever that was. Where, it was just a really positive thing, and it doesn't mean that there isn't, clearly there's a darkness there with the whole group. It's the dark woods, the dark city. There's a lot of really dark themes going on. There was a little bit of Joseph Campbell in there, and with archetypal imagery and dreams and clearly, I mean, Cotton has his dream podcast. That's something that he's always been interested in. And what Stilly and Cotton kind of, started, and then all these people coming and adding to it was just the coolest thing in the world. I love it. And I love the fact that it was a moment in time, and that I got to be there. I was kind of like just standing on stage, but also being a witness to it. And realizing that, I'm so grateful to be a part of it. Yeah, love the whole crew. But do you have any other questions?
I'm sorry. I want to apologize. I do want to apologize for calling you Miss Piggy on the Kim Zebe show.
You called me Miss Piggy out of all the people?
Well, she said that you and Dylan were more of a Bunsen and Beaker combo.
And you called me Miss Piggy?
I was like, who is Miss Piggy? Because we're like, okay, well, Adam, Stilly's Kermit, and Nate was Fozzie, Nick was Scooter, that kind of thing. And I'm like, who's Miss Piggy? And we had no idea who that would be, because no one really had that kind of like diva mentality. And we're just like, just give it to Zach, and it'll be fine. He'll take it. And
I mean, if it's a default kind of thing, then I mean, I'll take it. It's fine.
But she stood up for you, and she said, "No, he's more of a." Yeah, they were more of a Bunsen and Beaker, and I like that better, actually.
Oh yeah, I like that too, because Dylan did get involved too. We did the "Fly Like an Eagle" by Dennis Parker.
That version.
I don't know if you've seen that footage of that.
Is that the one from Space Jam?
You mean Spaceland, the club in Silver Lake? You mean that?
No,
or you mean the movie Space Jam?
No, you said Dennis Parker, "Fly Like an Eagle," and I'm thinking of the
not "Fly Like an Eagle." That's Steve Miller.
Well, someone covered it for the Space Jam movie. This was not Steve Miller.
This is called "Like an Eagle."
Oh,
it's a different song.
Sorry.
Dennis Parker. Don't look too deeply into who this guy is. Just listen to the song. There's no need to do a deep dive on Dennis Parker. But yeah, Like an Eagle, there's 2 music videos that you can see. There's one where he's walking through Manhattan, probably around 1980, and then another one where there's a green screen and he's just dancing with his shirt open. So Dylan dressed up like Dennis Parker for one of the PLaNETS shows at Spaceland, or the satellite. Yeah. And that was really special. I'm pretty sure he was wearing gold spandex, and he took his shirt off. He had a big bushy mustache.
I think there's a picture of that somewhere.
Yeah, Like an Eagle. Just look it up. It's really something special. So his appearances were special. Dylan, he didn't do much, with the whole group, but when he did, it left a mark.
Yeah. I also like to think of him going element.
Sure.
Anyway, do you have a specific show that you are most fond of, either based on your performance or...
You mean a specific show, or do you like a specific date that we played, or are you talking about Dark City versus Dark Woods?
No, like an actual date. Like, I mean, you could put like the highlights. The 2 ones I think of are the ones that are actually documented, which is the Dark City at Silver Lake Lounge, and the Dark Woods that culminated at the Troubadour show.
Yeah.
And those are 2 ones. Those are 2 ones. Like, but
those
there could
were
be
really fun. Yeah,
there could be a show that we don't have on record that
those were great. There were nights at Casey's, and I think that we even tried to do the show at O'Brien's in Santa Monica, which was very difficult because the space is so small.
Yeah,
but that was interesting. I remember there's certain shows that didn't go as planned, and those were kind of fun too. I remember playing I think we played this gig with King Khan Barbecue Show. It was I think it was at Claremont College, and the gig was opening for King Khan Barbecue Show, and we're doing, I'm pretty sure it was the Dark Woods show, but the important part of that is it was supposed to be, dark out. It's kind of, the whole show really works at night. I guess and we had to play in the light. It wasn't dark yet. So we're on this stage, and there's all these kids, these college students, just sitting on the grass, and we're doing this insane show that we normally do in pubs, and at late at night when people are drinking, to college kids that are dead sober with the sun is out, and it was awkward. Because I remember Nathaniel trying to get people to throw the paper.
Oh no!
And then people are just like sitting on the grass. They're like, "What's happening?" That was pretty funny. I really I like it when stuff like that happens, because it's just it's hilarious. It's not what you'd expect.
Right.
We had so many shows that were successful with like getting people involved, and then you have those where they're just looking at you like we're idiots or something. I loved that. That was so funny.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know. That comes to mind. There was a great one that we did at the Old Town Pub in Pasadena. That was awesome, because I remember they put, if you've ever been to the Old Town Pub in Pasadena, there's a big window behind the stage.
Okay. And
I remember Nathaniel somehow in his robot outfit somehow getting in the window behind, and when there was that great reveal, he was in the window behind everything, and it was a magical moment. It was very cinematic, and they got that so well. And sometimes the space yielded like little gems like that.
Nice.
It's stuff that probably doesn't matter to anyone else but me, but it sticks in my brain. Like, I remember that moment.
That's important.
Like, whoa, the robot's here, and and I just wanted to get to know the robot. I don't think I was in the. I had ever played. I still hadn't played a gig with them yet, because I think it was probably within a week after I'd first seen them, where I heard they were playing the Old Town Pub.
Got it.
And yeah, gosh, I went with Ringo Starr's granddaughter. We were hanging out. It's
Jesus
so random,
Christ, dude.
Yeah, I don't know why.
The way you name drop, by the way.
I don't. Well, that's a weird one.
Clever. Like it's. Do you know Dave Grohl?
Well, I mean, I know who he is, but I don't know him.
Do you know him personally?
No.
Do you know like his? Can you get me like
I've been to the studio because we were talking with back. There was a brief period of time where we were talking to a management company based out of Vegas that managed Blues Traveler, and Blues Traveler was recording at the studio in, what is it, Northridge, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went by the studio.
Yeah.
But he wasn't there. But we got to see the board. What was that? Isn't that board? Is that the Song Remains the Same board?
Well, it could have been. Depends on what year it was. I mean, if it was post 2011, it was probably the Sound City Neve.
It was that one. Yeah, because this was 2015, 14 or 15.
Okay. There's a running gag I'm starting, or I've been working on, where I'm like, get me Dave Grohl. I want Dave Grohl. And
you mean on the podcast?
On the podcast, but I also want to use the studio. Frankly,
you want to use his studio?
I want to use his studio.
Would you pay him or?
Yeah, I would pay him. Like it's a business. I would. It's just more about trying to get the access to use the studio because I kind of want to get back into a. I've been home recording for years. Like it's in unconventional recording spaces is kind of what I've been brought up in because I never really got to work in real studios.
Sure.
So like the idea of me wanting it, I elevate the opportunities to do that a little bit more than people do now, where it's like, you know, and I do appreciate like recording wherever you can, in creative environments for sure, depending on where they are. But like the idea of like I want to like there's a couple tunes I want to get together, like a group of people to actually rehearse and record a live session. I haven't done it in a long time. So, and I want to use.
It would be really fun.
And I want to do that. So anyway, but that's a place that's like that would be cool. I'd do that. I'd play. I want to record a psychedelic space beef music in Dave Grohl's studio. Anyway, the point being,
he played a gig right after Dave Grohl.
Well, yeah, you guys played
at the Conejo Valley days.
Yeah.
Well, that was his other band though. That was where he was playing guitar.
That was Taylor's group actually.
Oh yeah, so he was playing
Chevy
drums.
Metal. That was Chevy Metal.
Chevy Metal.
And
that's right.
Yeah, and I think the year after that, I decided to work that gig, and Buster comes over and he goes, "Hey, do you want to like? I need a guy to help out Jeff, who's the front of house dude." And he goes, "Hey, you want to work?" And of course, Doug's like, my uncle Doug's like, "No, I don't want to work that gig," because we were giving him this. That was our sound system. That was our PA, our old PA my dad built. They were using it. It's old. My dad's very, very proud of it. So, but it was a 3-way system with our own subs and stuff like that. And anyway, he, which is for sale, by the way, if anybody wants to buy that, and for their own personal. Anyway,
you can buy a 3-way system.
Yes, you can buy a 3-way system. Anyway, but I didn't believe Buster when he's like, yeah, well, we got Foo Fighters. I'm like, you got the Foo Fighters, and like lo and behold, there's the Foo Fighters, and on Rolling Stone magazine had a picture of it, or someone sent Rolling Stone a picture of it. I'm like, that's our system, that's our sound, that's our PA system. Yeah, my dad built those. Anyway, the next year, you know, they said we're doing it again. Of course, it wasn't exactly the same. It was basically Chevy Metal. Taylor on drums singing Queen songs with his guy on bass and guitar, and Dave would show up. Dave was supposed to be there. He was actually, and helped sing some songs. But also Ambrosia was playing, and Burley caught me sleeping through it because it's a very long day.
Wait,
it was really funny.
Burley Senior or Junior?
Burley the elder, yeah.
Burley Senior caught you sleeping.
I was on during their set.
During Ambrosia's set?
Yeah.
Well, some of their stuff's very chill and relaxing. Like
sure,
where you want to be just like sipping a pina colada on a yacht.
Yeah. Well, Buster didn't tell me that it was.
But you were tired.
That he was. I got there like 8. And I didn't exactly look into how long the day was going to be. And Buster was like, yeah, he didn't exactly tell me. I thought it'd be done at like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. It's like till 10 or 11 at night, like 8 to like, it was really tired. He actually did pay me in cash.
Well, that's cool.
And anyway, the point was, yeah, he caught me. It was in that like part of the day where I'm like, I was really kind of getting in just so I could like sneak in to see Dave. And I really, I don't care that much about the music itself, but Dave and Taylor are interesting people. So I know I got a picture of Taylor and Joe Porta. I took a picture of them at Taylor's request.
So they knew about the picture. You weren't.
They knew about the picture.
Okay.
They posed for it, and I said, "Here you go. There you go." No.
Then you airdropped it to yourself.
Yeah. No, but anyway, you have this incredible connective power where I can connect 6 degrees. Instead of take out Kevin Bacon and put in the word Zmed, and you can connect anybody in the world to you guys.
Hey,
and,
Kevin Bacon plays with his brother.
That's true.
The Bacon brothers.
How do you know Kevin Bacon? How many degrees from meeting Kevin Bacon?
I'm trying to think of the first movie I saw him in. There was some Alcatraz movie where he was in. He stabbed someone with a spoon. I
mean, you're 2 degrees, but put it this way: you're 2 degrees from Shatner, Donald Trump, Lemmy. There's just a bunch of people that you happen to know or be in.
I don't know them.
Okay, I should be careful about that. But like, but there, you have this very like, oh, it's just like that was Lemmy's son's drum kit. You want it? I'm like, that was Dylan saying that. I'm like, sure, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so it's a lot of. I'm just like at first. I mean, when we first started hanging out, like on a more serious level, I suppose. Like it was the King Washington was doing their residency, and that was when I found out that you knew Buster and that you knew those guys. That you knew, and I was like, oh my gosh, you were pretty. I was insanely impressed of how close the world just got. Oh, the fact that you recorded the Janks record at Drum Channel.
Oh, DW, sure.
And then you knew. So you said you know Kevin. I know Kevin.
Yeah.
And Chris and Don and like, oh, it just got like the world just got smaller and smaller. Like, oh, you guys, that's really cool. You know all those people.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just how life is if you're paying attention, or is it? I don't know, because.
It depends. I think it depends on how social you. I think I did read the Malcolm Gladwell book about tipping point, about cultural viral the nature of viral like cultural viruses and stuff like that, and about mavens, connectors, and salesmen, that kind of thing. And I think there is a degree because my friend Eric. Is very insular, and so he doesn't know a lot of people. So it's like when we talk about the COVID situation, he goes, I don't know anybody who got it. He just doesn't know that many people, though.
Yeah.
I know a handful of people who got it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I know more people. So
I think that I get that. I think, yeah, I mean, I definitely know people that are much more social than I am. But there was a period in time where we were, just out there constantly. I'd say between 2012 and 2015, I was going out 5 nights a week. If I wasn't playing, I was going to see music and support people and connect with people. And it was a very specific time in my life where I was willing to do that. But yeah, being really social and meeting lots of folks and just trying to do good work and be a decent human being, people remember that and they'll think, oh, maybe this person will be good for this gig, and they're easy to work with. They're so definitely I can see that some people are much more just keeping to themselves, and maybe they have less connections to Kevin Bacon, unless you're just kind of an isolated person that's Kevin Bacon's friend. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't mean to. I understand what you're saying,
but yeah,
my dad also, both of my parents, they're pretty outgoing people. From Chicago, Midwestern kind of outgoing thing, and my dad's over the years has always been a team player with any production that he's been in. So he's like one of the only people that William Shatner has good things to say about. I have the Shatner autobiography where he mentions my dad, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that my dad was a team player and kind of let things. He didn't fight Shatner. He wanted things to just work for the show.
Yeah.
And my mom is kind of similar, where she's the kind of person that no matter where we're going, she can make friends. Yeah. We'll be at Balboa Park, and all of a sudden, my mom's in a 2-hour conversation with a homeless woman, we're at, or she went to, the head of Universal's, Easter party, and she's hanging out with, Jamie Foxx wants to hang out with her. And she's just. She can exist in a lot of different spaces, and she's very easygoing. If you don't like my mom, then you don't like people. She's just she's a great lady. So the reason I bring in that stuff up is that everything that they are, all the people that they know, that clearly has had a huge effect on Dylan and I, and so we're lucky to know a fair amount of people because they're pretty social and decent human beings, and so that might be, we've met a lot of folks, but I don't know, man. I've definitely retreated a little bit from the world. I think everybody has, but I would love to be more out there. I miss seeing all my friends. I miss playing original music with my friends. And gosh, your initial question was the just like knowing people. Like, what was your question? I don't even know where the heck I'm going with this.
Well, I think I was sort of setting up in a statement that we could roll with, but essentially, I've always been impressed of how connected in quotes, where it's just like, oh yeah, we know that guy. Like the people that I did not know, you'd be like, for example, like I think the biggest one for me was Frank Akery, because it was like we've known that guy for years, and it would have been like we would have been passing ships in the night for if it wasn't for like the Deltas, Mm-hmm. And it would just so happen that like that. It's just sort of a cool.
The fact that you guys are into sound and in that business, and he's into sound and lighting, and there are times when I feel like there are hidden hands at work. If that makes any sense, I don't know how to exactly to put it. If you want to, semantically, you can put it in so many different ways. But I just feel moments like there are providential things that happen where it's okay, we were led here, we know each other. Yeah. And like, let's not squander this opportunity to know each other. We're lucky that we met each other, and there's so much that I see that way, and I mean, meeting the whole PLaNETS crew, meeting you, knowing John and Ted, and I'm grateful for it. I don't really think too much about connections, I just think about individual people and the love I have for them. Because all the people that you just joked around about me knowing, I don't know them. Like,
I know
there's
that.
no way that they know me.
it's me. That's me making the observation that just so happens that these things kind of like pop up and because you don't really know them, you can speak about it more casually.
I saw Jeff Goldblum at the ArcLight. I don't know him.
I did sound for Jeff Goldblum. My great grandparents know him. Knew him.
There you go.
When they were alive. My great grandmother used to feed him when he was a starving artist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Flies eat anything. Never mind.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. I mean, he was. I should have said I forgot my mantra, but the when I got to meet him at UCSB when I got to do mixed monitors for him, I mentioned Irene Kohler, and he's like, I remember that name. I'm like, yes, you were like family. I'm like, yes,
you were like fam. That's like, awesome. Yeah.
Anyways, it was really cool. So,
I just brought that up as a joke.
Like, yeah.
Because I could see, I've seen so many people in LA, and you end up in these weird situations where, I was at a party where the Olsen twins showed up. It's like, okay, well, I don't know them.
No. It's a good point. I mean, I
guess I'm 1 degree away from them because I know people that know them. But
to that end, yeah, it's, if you put it in a statistical term like that, it's a little different. And I can, I know there's a difference between, knowing, I know that you've, don't have a relationship with William Shatner.
Hey, one of my childhood friends, they owned John Stamos's house in Calabasas. There's another connection to Full House.
No way. There's a dude I remember in college we were there was a point where I forgot the guy, but he was mentioning a story where we were going to this producer's flat / studio in downtown LA, and basically we're in a music business class talking to people who are fairly successful and established in the biz. The guy starts telling about the story where he works on the Bad record, Michael Jackson's Bad.
It was pretty good.
And he goes, and this one guy goes, no way, no, dude, fuck off, it was like, oh my god, no way, and yeah, dude, it happened, come on,
celebrities become larger than life to people, and I think that's another thing I kind of like about being out here in Tennessee is that there are a lot of performers that live out here, a lot of musicians, but I get the feeling that it's much more so living out here. They're just regular people. You see Vince Gill at the local guitar shop, and
no way,
he's just a nice guy that opens the door for you. Oh, yeah. There's no. I like the whole worship of celebrities is. I don't know. It's a really strange thing to me.
It's I've been. I need to. There might be, by the time this pod comes out, we may have already done it and released it. But I was having I met up with our mutual friend Devin Geyer.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this whole thing he wanted to write a book about, or he wants to kind of maybe document or formulate this theory about media, or the way, not media, but the modern zeitgeist essentially elevating pop music above to a level that's sort of strange, in the way we don't do it for other historical figures. Like Led Zeppelin has this mythos that I think he mentioned Cicero, that other, older, the way we elevate modern music above other. I mean, not to say that it's not as important as other art forms or classical forms or jazz forms or anything like that, but basically just it's at a certain, and maybe it's for commercial purposes, of course, but it's brought about to a certain degree that's slightly more distorted in a way that other things are not. I'm paraphrasing terribly on that.
Well, I think I've talked with Devin about stuff like this before. I know that both he and I have spent some time with Tyler Mahan Co's both of his podcasts, one being Cocaine and Rhinestones. The other one is called All Your Favorite Bands Suck. And which is really funny because it's really like a postmodern exercise in just it's just about critique, and that's all it is. And but it's interesting, and there's definite utility in breaking down like how groups like Led Zeppelin and the Who and the Beatles are in a sense like they're huge corporate rock bands, huge, like they and they were sold to the public, and then it got mythologized over time, and then the boomers, our parents, kind of like mythologized it to us,
right?
And so I think it's important to be mindful of that. It doesn't mean that the music, a lot of the music isn't great. If I want to listen to blues, I prefer listening to real blues. British blues is something different. It's exciting. Yeah. It's exciting. Yeah. It's like getting to see what Brits tried to do with blues. But to me, it's not blues. Like blues is like Delta blues to me. Like it's very specific and it was like a moment in time and American.
Right. Yeah. But it couldn't be that discredits Chicago blues in the same right?
Oh no. And it's like I know things just naturally evolve and change, but you know what I mean. Like the Chicago blues was Delta blues. I mean, and clearly, you listen to Zeppelin's "In My Time of Dying," and that's Delta blues just like on steroids.
Right.
It's exciting, but it is something different. It's not. I don't know. I mean, I love it. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, it's okay. It's a postmodern. It's a very fascinating time right now, and I'm working on something basically kind of breaking down non-linearity in postmodernism. Like basically how we now have there was some sort of sense of linearity based on like movements where we couldn't exactly reference the access to music that we had in the late 20th century would allow for movements to encounter movements to develop in pop music and jazz and classical at this point had reached kind of reached that sort of like they were too self-aware at that point, so it became academic, so it's a little different. But the idea that you could swing, like for example, you would have like the heavy, like the post-60s, take the 70s for example, you would have like in the early 70s you had like early glam, you had prog, you had like Led Zeppelin heavy stuff, like sort of behemoth rock but the punk guys would call like rock dinosaurs, and then you'd have that punk movement in the mid 70s to kind of counter it in the mid late 70s, and then it would struggle, and that's just on a rock level, of course. And
I know what you mean,
because to counter that,
because I see almost more in common between the Clash and Buddy Holly than I do Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Buddy Holly.
Right, exactly. And so like those movements don't always go away, but they obviously become they are no longer the focus of our cultural attention. And then by the time we get to now, and like Napster kind of blew that out the window, so now we can have access to everything. And then Spotify now is definitely where we can go. Oh, we can listen to whatever we want from whenever we want, whenever. So like it becomes really cool, and the way we can move forward creatively is interesting, because we can go in a super. We can deep dive into our like cultural past, and I think that's something that you guys were doing. Like you're going into brother duo. You couldn't do that like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You couldn't. I mean, you could if you did your homework and you searched out libraries. But like looking over like old brother blood harmonies, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something you can especially do now that you couldn't do. It's easier to do that now than then. And then you see other groups that are kind of going into hybrid categories. I could see guys like who are that are into like I think of like Thundercat, who's into like anime and jazz and funk and certain rock music, or Tame Impala that goes all over the place and kind of explores psychedelia and sort of 80s like Prince pop type stuff and different things like that. And so it's an interesting time that we can sort of, you know, and even to the point where we were talking about your band sucks, I was listening to like even like Zoomers and Gen Z will have a different perspective than we will based on like the Beatles. Like their opinion of the Beatles will not be, oh, the early days versus the older days. They kind of go, well, the early days are not as good because they're just, the songs are kind of cheesy, or even though like some of the songs we were developing of the time were really good or interesting and innovative as far as like the
recording practices
with the Beatles, or recording practices and stuff like that. And there's a level of like with but like they don't sound as interesting as like Abbey Road songs do, because the Abbey Road songs have developed, like the way those songs were developed are different from the early rock and roll like with the Beatles. Anyway, the point,
they weren't really, I mean, when the Beatles started, they were, it's funny because it's not like they were a great band. They were just, I love those early recordings.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen to the early Beach Boys, the early Stones, and the really early Beatles. There's a lot of really exciting energy there, and there's some cool songs. But they're kids. They're kids trying to play like American music, and not doing it very well. I mean, you can argue that they got better and better at doing it. But if you listen to Sam Cooke, listen to Little Richard, like. These guys, Louis Jordan, these guys are the masters, and the Everly Brothers masters. You know, they did it so easily, and then there were these, like, to me, like my favorite thing about the Beatles ended up being their writing and their production.
Yeah,
it's really interesting stuff going on. There was so much more involved with why the Beatles like ascended the way that they did. Then,
right.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I'm following that. Like I think it's weird how people. I was thinking about this because I've been watching I watch a lot of like basketball highlights from the like golden age of basketball, being like the 70s and 80s and stuff. Just when things were so exciting in the 80s, like it was so much fun. I was going to
say the 70s were like
I meant the 80s, and early 90s, and you know, so when people go back and look at clips of Magic and Jordan and Larry Bird, I think that people are constantly they're comparing it to today's game.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to see the evolution, and the same thing goes for music. If they're just younger people just see on their playlist this Beatles song sitting right next to this Tame Impala song, and they don't think about the evolution of music, and it's also very interesting just meeting so many people that think music started with the Beatles. You know, it's like that's where it all began.
I think we had a running gag about that. Music was in a bad place, and then the Beatles showed up, and then it made it all better.
It's ridiculous.
It's a fun gag to roll with if you're trolling people, though.
Yeah, because
if you're being facetious about it, it's funny. If people when people take it seriously, we got problems. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, because I really like how in 50s and 60s there was I don't know, there was just this special moment in music where, I mean, there were always problems with the business and such, and there were pros and cons to progress, and
The business is very complicated, but I like the fact that there is this brief moment in time where you didn't really know what an artist was. Like, is Chuck Berry blues or is he country? Or, like what is Chuck Berry? Chuck Berry wrote Maybelline based off of a Bob Wills song, an old Western swing song. Yeah. He grew up listening to country music. To me, the music being the great unifier and people not knowing the race or what the person looked like, the artist looked like, there was something kind of special about that and exciting. It's like it didn't matter.
I think of Charlie Parker really digging
Hank Williams. Hank Williams
Sorry,
Sr.
I'm gonna reset.
Ted Williams is a Boston Red Sox, right? Ted
Williams was.
Yeah.
No, but the what I think about is I think of Charlie Parker, sort of the patron saint, died too young of bebop. Really digging Hank Williams, the patron saint of like country songwriting.
Yeah.
Died too young. Those sort of things.
The stories. It's all about the stories, and that was the thing. That's what's so cool about a lot of those the early country songs is they're just, where's the line between like blues and country? Like, where's the line between Jimmy Rogers and Robert Johnson? Like, where is?
I could tell you.
Well, you know what I mean. Musically,
the
musically.
Okay,
so
it's the drinking fountains.
but musically speaking, so I just think that all that stuff is very interesting to me. I also got found out from someone, a historian in Augusta, Georgia, that James Brown's one of his favorite artists was Little Jimmy Dickens. Which is an interesting thing to think about. Like, the Godfather of Soul loved country music.
Yeah.
Ray Charles, his biggest selling record
sounds in country western
was I Can't Stop Loving You by Don Gibson.
Yeah.
Like, again, the music is the great unifier, and I love that. Like, whether it's music, food, sports, we need to find those things that are unifiers in through amidst culture. But the reason I brought that up is it did seem like there was this moment where, is it jazz or is it country western swing? Like, where is Cajun? There's Cajun country, and then there's so many different
regional
styles.
Yeah.
And
we as humans have a pattern recognition. We're really good at it, and sometimes to a fault. And sometimes it helps us. The idea of genres in general help us to categorize, and just compartmentalize things. And sometimes, people who really don't like that are musicians themselves because they don't want to be labeled as one thing or another.
Which is it's funny that people say that, but at the same time, the more that you do that, it's actually in your best interest a lot of the time to actually give people a very clear brand. Like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Think about Motorhead. Motorhead, like, Ace of Spades, and you think of every Motorhead song sounds like a Motorhead song. AC/DC, every AC/DC song is an AC/DC song, and they know their brand.
Yeah,
and that is a tough thing because musicians don't want to be pigeonholed in their own minds, but they'd probably be better off if they told people, I play this basic type of music.
I suppose. I think that it gets into a realm of, like, depending on what they know and what they like and what they're good at. Obviously, I think and I think about those bands, and I'm not nearly as interested in those bands because probably they do conform to, like, I could probably condense their entire catalog into one song,
sure.
As a fan, because there's people. I do like the ability that people can dabble in one thing and do another. I think I was thinking, Father Time and I were talking about Mumford and Sons because he was managing them and then got kicked out, and they blew up, and
I know I've heard
I've
heard that story about the jacuzzi.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that, and I said, that first album I kind of liked, and that second album I really didn't, because it was the same freaking thing. Like, and of
but
course,
if the songs were good, like that, like to me, the songs matter the most, and it's like I don't mind that. Kind of Kinks is like just like the first Kinks record, because the songs are awesome. Like there's so many cool songs on it.
I suppose it's a decent point, but like I can recognize, like, maybe this is just me, but like when we talk about the Kinks, because they have like, but you could see development in their work throughout the 60s. So obviously,
totally, of course.
But like I can tell there's like, I can identify songs from something else, from Village Green, and then, but even the Village Green Society has different songs within that kind of vibe. It's like,
but can you imagine being a band like the Beatles now, trying to? We ran into this problem as the Janks. I felt like I have so many disparate musical interests, and I tried to put all of it into one band.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of, when I was, my tastes have changed. My tastes have changed a lot, but I was really into the Ween. I still love Ween.
Okay, yeah.
But Ween is pretty much like every album.
Something more embarrassing.
Every album is like every song's a different band. It's like they took the Beatles' White Album a little bit too seriously, and decided to make their whole career like the Beatles' White Album. Which has great songs on it. And I love that material, but it's also very difficult to forge a career if every song is different. And the songs need to be good.
It's true. But I'll tell you, there's a couple things to that. One, I'm sure you've listened to the Psychedelic Space Beef Band new album, Beef Around the World, which is similar, where you can see where the influences change from point to point, because we're going to virtual location to location, which is just basically, whatever. I really like Afrobeat, so we're going to put an Afrobeat song in there. I really like Latin Boogaloo, so we're going to have a Latin Boogaloo song, because I really like that shit. But of course, other songs were written by other people and don't have those vibes. But
how do you distill everything, all of those influences, to one sound so that people know who you are very quickly?
Sense of humor would have to be the connecting tissue to that. Mm-hmm. I would have to
for your project.
For me, I would have to have first off. There's a concept record to that element where we're going. There's a storyline that each song has. So there's a dimension to that beyond the actual songs, and some of them are not that long either. There's like the Afrobeat tunes, like an interlude. But the one thing I would say that is the guys like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are doing. They're making like full albums in a certain style, and then they're not changing within the record, but they're making dedicated albums in a genre, in different genres. So they would have a psychedelic one, like Float Along, Fill Your Lungs. They have a spaghetti western one, like Eyes Like the Sky, and then they have like a sort of a math rocky one, like Polygon Wonderland, and then they have like a thrash metal one called Infest Erasmus. But they're all singular works, like they're whole works. And then they've built up they might be the most postmodern band I know of that does that, because they can just pick and choose their vibe per album.
And I'm not as well versed on new music as you probably, but there are my guess would be that they're lucky they found a market for what they do, because most people out there are just trying to make a living. They're just trying to figure out a way to pay their bills, and so I have no problem with people pigeonholing themselves and finding a brand, because I would say that they're an extreme lucky case where they've found their niche.
They're not exactly like they're not exactly Grammy darlings either, so like
there's only a certain level
class. That's like a 1%er element to that kind of drives me a little bit bad.
I'm trying to think of the last band that was truly like an independent band that got mainstream notification. I don't know much about what's going on, but I remember Arcade Fire having a
Radiohead would be up there. Wilco would be another one.
Wilco, sure, yeah.
But Wilco still has like they get Beck is another one.
Yeah,
but as a singularity, that is very postmodern.
Totally. Yeah, but you know what? I still feel like each one of those groups that you just mentioned, they have a brand still.
Sort of, like they have a brand, like, but their brand is basically their brand has kind of been we kind of do what we want. Like each record has been.
But you know what?
Established.
You generally know what you're going to get, even with the switch from Suburbs to Reflector, which was more like a 60s vibe to a 70s or more like disco ABBA kind of vibe.
Yeah,
you still know what they are.
Yeah. I think it's to that it's a. And that also comes to with the songwriting styles of they have like a core, right? They have a writing core that we have established. We know we can establish what Jeff Tweedy's songs kind of sound like lyrically, or what Beck's songs sound like lyrically, or even lyrically or melodically. Like I noticed Beck tends to, we know I kind of have an idea what kind of bridge Beck would go towards if it was more automated. Not to say that he does that bridge all the time, but there's always sometimes he does that. Wilco, like Jeff Tweedy song, or Tom York those guys have a certain style, the way they would write things.
Yeah.
So that would be their brand essentially, is the songwriting in that element, and then the sonics can morph to what they want to do with.
Yeah, each one of those bands, you got to know who they were.
Yeah.
And their material was cohesive. To me, The Bends is a very cohesive record, and it all fits together.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to Kid A, you're like, where am I? This is nuts.
I love Kid A.
So do I.
I think it's
I'm not saying
my favorite,
that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that you know who they are. You've already had time to establish a relationship with them.
Yeah.
If the Beatles came out with Magical Mystery Tour first,
it would be a novelty, and I'm sure it's like you'd have it'd be like sort of regarded like Incense and Peppermints.
Oh sure, yeah, they were
kind of like, oh, that was a fun. It'd be in an Austin Powers soundtrack.
Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Yeah.
You know that those guys played. They backed up Don and Phil Everly. They were.
Did they seriously?
They actually were in the backing band.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to remember who else they played with. They played with some big names. But yeah. But that does play a role. It's like, it makes me think of. I remember when Steve Martin was hosting the Oscars, and he said, "Look at all this talent, all these people, different walks of life, all under the same roof for the love of one thing."
Money.
Publicity. And that's just the unfortunate. That's reality about the whole thing, is that all of the people that that we regard as people that they don't even care. They're just doing whatever they want. They're businessmen. Like they know what they're doing. It's way more calculated than we might think. I mean, that's not in every case, but
the only people I would think about that might not be that would be like Canadian post rock, like Constellation Records and stuff like that. They tend to like really like, but their whole mentality is to not be is not exactly publicity. They're like kind of their expectations are far more realistic to what they want to do and how they get around, and the fans buy into it. So it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I like. There's the whole DIY scene that took place. What's the band called that? Fugazi. Fugazi.
Oh, okay. Oh, and you see,
yeah, like I don't know that much about them, but the idea that they were doing things truly independently, they still somehow got their message to people. They figured it out, So like they just, I guess it would be that would be an actual grassroots kind of way of reaching people, as opposed to through corporate media or through the record label or
the King Gizzard guys do have their own record label they built from the ground up, from scratch, from the beginning. So like that's a similar grassroots scenario where it's expanded. It's why they can make 5 records, release 5 albums in a year, because no label would ever
do that. Let them do that. Sure.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, you need that's an album cycle now. Like,
it's so cool that they've found their way to make a living and to make the records they want to make.
I'm very envious.
but they work so hard. You have to have, and I don't know what their initial starting up situation was like. I don't know their story, but
it's mostly Melbourne based, Australia.
Okay,
so it's. They got you could check out like local radio station, Australian radio station, like visits and stuff like that. They really, but they also had like 7 people in that band, and one guy could focus on, they can, much like PLaNETS, they could just cycle back in.
That's what this whole podcast is supposed to be about. We're off on this.
Well,
speculating about stuff and talking out.
I love it.
Yeah,
but anyway, the point is they can compartmentalize different tasks. So one guy basically they had 2 drummers, and one of them ran the label and owned the label and managed the band, and someone else wrote the songs, and someone else produced this, could work on things, and so that allowed for they could also work on their own projects because they had their own label. So they're really kind of an inspiration for the Lost Beat 6 mentality that I'm trying to figure out how to do.
Yeah,
via both via this podcast and via just like trying to make a living making records, because that's really what I want to do. I don't really want to be like a label. I'd rather be the producer, mixer, engineer, musician when I can, but mostly but it's just a means of trying to create your own autonomy.
I feel the same way. I'd rather things take a little bit longer and try and figure it out myself these days.
Yeah.
Then I mean, I have a decent enough team with Dylan and I. We're trying to establish ourselves just as the two of us in a production line with recording and then figuring out our whole again the way our look, which guitars we're going to be using, all that stuff. We're kind of starting over right now as with our original music.
I'm excited about
Zmed
that,
Bros.
By the way.
And we're trying to let it all happen naturally and or organically, not like pushing too much or contriving anything. And but also very much wanting what we're doing to exist in a very specific space, which is blood harmony, where it's like Dylan and I feel like just simply an acoustic guitar and 2 vocals singing a simple melody, singing a great song. It doesn't matter what song where that song initially came from, whether it was an 80s pop song by Heart, or if it was an old blues song or whatever it was. It's going to have legs, and it's going to sound like us because we're going to reduce it to its most basic elements, and just 2 vocals singing in harmony. And I think we're interested in showing, kind of trying to reintroduce just how that sound, how timeless that sound is, and how it works on any style. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, we'll figure out a way to make it work. And so that's kind of as far as we've thought in terms of our I guess, how we want our brand to be. We just want it to be very simple. And but again, I know that it seems silly talking about branding, but we've been thinking more about that because we've had success doing the Everly material around the country, and we've booked gigs as the Zmed Brothers now, in the same circuits, the same theaters, and performing arts centers with a new show. It's the Zmed Brothers, this kind of Americana duo, blood harmony duo of the of the Everly Brothers experience are doing their own show that's going to be a mixture of original material, Everly material, and songs that we love that have stories attached to them. So, we're grateful to be making a living playing music. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of musicians that are much better than me or don't have that. And but again, entertainment is the other half of that. The consummate performing package is not just being a musician, but knowing how to put together a show and entertain people. Yeah. And that's providing a service for the public, not just being self-serving. Right. So we're trying not to steer too far from that, what's worked for us, and we're trying to keep the audience in mind. That's probably been the biggest shift between philosophically between the way that we were and the way that we are now. When I say the way we were, I mean during maybe some of the Janks years, a lot of that material was much more so like pursuing my own like thoughts, my own fantasies. It was more self-serving. Sure. And now I just feel, once again, providing a service for other people. That's kind of how I see it now. And it doesn't mean that I'm not doing things that I love and I'm not serving myself in the process, but that's not the primary focus. We're putting together a show for a very specific audience, and that actually helps Dylan and I get along better too, because when we don't have an overarching goal, like something that we're both striving towards, then we honestly get into arguments, and because it can go anywhere. If we're just left with our own whims, it can go anywhere, and we're just going to battle. But if we have something that we're both striving towards, it tends to work for us. But to bring this all back to PLaNETS, right? I just want to say how much the whole everyone in that whole crew, individually, how many great people there are and how inspiring it was to be around them all, and I'm so grateful I got to experience that. It was so cool, and I hope that someday there's some way we can all do some kind of reunion show or something, like do the Dark Woods or Dark City. Or whatever it is. I hope that happens someday. But even if it doesn't, I'm glad that it happened.
They are, I will say they are working on some new stuff. It's not exactly a music thing. It's more of it's music involved, but it's not necessarily. They're working on a sort of audible audio, like an old school radio show, like a Mercury Theater, Orson Welles type of thing. Which is which they're working on. They're about. I think they're almost there. Last time I talked to Stilly last week, and he said they're finished the pilot episode. So they're still working on stuff. I kind of think of it as like King Crimson. It's whatever, or it's like a way of doing things. It's not a band; it's a way of doing things.
Sure. I haven't seen, normally when I'm back in Los Angeles, I stop by and see the whole see the guys and gals and catch up, but I haven't really seen anyone since, I guess that would be February of 2000 20. Yeah, Dylan just walked in. It's Dylan and we got to rehearse.
I know.
It's time.
I was really happy I got another half hour out of you. But because you know we can go on and on. But and I'm glad we did. Seriously.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked. Thanks for including me. Again, I was just a little tiny part of something that was really special, and I know that we ended up talking about a whole bunch of other stuff that
it's all good.
No one cares about, but
Marianne and I went all over the place. That's the cool part about talking to different people. Is the conversation will start one way and it can drift into whatever. It's cool. But I know you are actually kind of, including myself, you were a linchpin or a gateway drug into this world for a lot of different people. So that was a lot of people I've talked to previously have credited you and Dylan and the Janks as bringing them into this world the planet's expanding universe. So anyway,
that is literally what I meant by people sharing, and how we make each other, how we're all mutual benefactors if we're sharing, and rather than hoarding.
Yes.
The little it's a success that we have, which is again the famine mentality. As opposed to how abundance is created by us sharing with each other.
Yeah. So. Is Dylan there?
He walked in briefly, but and he had a look on his face like, "What's going on?" So, yeah, I gotta get
all right.
going.
Well,
but I love you,
appreciate.
Steven.
Yeah, I love you too, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing thoughts, and we'll have you back on for other things too.
That sounds great.
You're welcome to join our beef sessions if you're available for them. But
sure.
But please, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.